Yeah, I actually have a tip card that's called Marketing versus Organic Terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really kind of goes into what do each of those things mean when you see it. I was in the grocery store, I want to say about a month ago, and I was buying like chicken breast, and it said right on the package, gluten-free. And I'm like,
Well, yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but people are using so many marketing terms and
Yes.
so on things that would naturally not be that.
Well, welcome, Jennifer, Chef Jen.
Exactly. Chef Jennifer, actually.
Chef Jennifer.
I just did some rebranding.
I know. Okay, so everyone, I want everyone to know about you. Everyone who's listening and watching, and I want them to know about you. So we met at a coaching program.
Yep. The
And
E-Women SOAR program.
yes, and well, both of us kind of, me for changing directions and you starting something completely different from what you were doing before. So for people that don't know you, can you, you're a chef, obviously, I just said that, so that's pretty obvious. But before we go into what you do now, can you just kind of share a little bit about you and what you did before? Is the reason I wanted to interview you, and thank you, by the way, for saying yes.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
Is because I want to highlight women who have made a major change in the way they bring income, how they make money, and just completely opposite or completely different direction from where they were before, and how the risk and they're successful. So I just want to highlight when we're doing that. So tell us about you. What did you do before you became Chef Jen?
Before I became Chef
Jennifer.
So Chef Jennifer. So I'm getting used to that too. So
yeah. Okay.
So I wasn't one of the kids that decided they were going to go to college right fresh out of high school. I got married and had a baby, and realized about 6 months later, before I had the baby, that I was going to be doing this all alone. And so we got divorced before Matt was born, and after me struggling for about a year or so after he was born, I decided, I guess finally I'm going to stop being stubborn. I'm going to go to college. So I went to college, and I became an electrical engineer, mainly because my stepdad said that I couldn't. I was a girl, and that's a guy's job.
Oh, so you were one of those.
I'm a stubborn girl, yes. Remember the stubborn part from before? I wasn't going to go to college?
Yeah.
So I became an electrical engineer and ended up in corporate America. I graduated from school. I did school work and raising a son at the same time. And I graduated when he was just about 7 years old. After that, it was in the second grade, and I got a Mother's Day card. You know, the ones the teachers help you make, and they have all the wonderful things that they love about you and so on, and written in the card. But he had written in the bottom, just before "I love you, Mom," he wrote, "I wish you didn't cook so much because it's awful."
Oh
yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And so I still have the card. Actually, I might have given it back to him. It might be in a special box I gave back to him, because he's going to be 30 this year. So, I was mad for a couple of days, but I really realized that, you know what? I've been helping my mom raise kids since I was probably 10 years old, and cooking for them. And my mom was not a very good cook, as well as my grandmother wasn't a very good cook. My grandfather, on the other hand, could make the best breakfast in the whole world, but my grandmother didn't let him in the kitchen because of the fact that he made just such a huge mess, and of which she would have to clean up, right? So
my mom did the same with my dad. My dad actually is a really good cook, but he's very messy, so she was like, "No, you can't cook."
Exactly. And so I was mad for a couple of days. I won't sugarcoat that. I missed, the thing is, you missed the gift of the other 10 things or whatever it was that they love about you, and focusing on the negative piece, right? And so it was years later before I went back and was thankful for all the other things that he wrote in the card. However, what did drive me to do is being somewhat of a perfectionist and not liking to hear that about myself. I really went back to I went to culinary school. So I finished engineering school. I'm working full time and raising a son, and I go back in the evenings and weekends to culinary school to learn how to cook. And really, honestly, I adopted a couple more kids after that, and that was our time together, right? So when I wasn't working, when the kids were at home or not in sports and activities and so on, we spent time team building. Basically, I call it team building now, but that time we spent time together about around food. And so, actually, my youngest son, who wrote the Mother's Day card, he's a chef as well.
Really?
He is absolutely. He's very good. He
You
graduated.
inspired him to get into cooking.
Well, we all like food, and so yeah, I think he really wanted to learn and figure out what he needed to do with his portion of what he was going to take on his life with food and how he was going to carry that forward. So he doesn't work in a restaurant. He actually is doing something else at this point, because restaurant work is really hard. It is really, really hard, and it's very competitive. And the one thing that I do know about being a chef is there's a lot of chefs out there that are really down to earth and really great, but there's a lot that are very arrogant as well. And so I struggle with that part of it, but because I like to be down to earth and very transparent, and I think that we all treat each other like humans, then we get back what we give, right? And so that's my way, and so that's how my style in the kitchen too. I could be the boss, but then I want to make sure that everybody realizes that we're all a team and we get through this together. So that's how I became a chef. And
that's how I started. But there's something different about you. You're not just a chef. You have a specific focus. So
I do.
How are you different from all the chefs?
All the chefs? Well, I really pour a lot of love and desire for people to eat a good, nutritious meal. So I focus on very good organic ingredients, down to grass-fed beef and pastured chickens, pastured eggs, all of those organic terms in the food, and make sure that I cleanly make it, and I really make sure that it tastes good, because there's a lot of places that you go to that you really have, it says that it's going to be all organic food, but it tastes like cardboard and it doesn't have much flavor to it. And that makes me very sad, because just because it's organic food doesn't mean it has to taste like it's a diet. It's a lifestyle.
It's so true. There's something you don't know, but just about a month ago I turned vegan.
Oh, I love those. They're most of my customers.
But I was scared at first, because I had tried the vegan thing like over 20 years ago, and because I was, I've been a vegetarian over like 25 years almost, and I had tried it at the beginning, way back. And I tell you, after a couple of weeks, I was bored out of my mind.
There wasn't very much.
There was not very much that I didn't
and the
know
flavors weren't very good.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I'm back into it again, it's just like the opposite is happening, where I'm actually finding that even the foods that I was eating before taste better. And I don't know what's happening, but it is.
I think that the industry of providing meat alternative foods has really focused on making them not taste so. I'm just going to go with the word horrible.
They were horrible.
Yeah, I'll give you.
Still are some. There are not
some that are.
Good.
Yes. So I'll tell you a funny story. So kids were probably. So I had 2 at the time, and I want to say that we went on some, how do we cut meat out of our diet, and so I did a vegan thing, or vegetarian, mostly vegetarian, got the meat out, and I got these vegetarian hot dogs, and my kids were looking at me like, I will eat them after you try it.
It's like, yuck.
Note to self, we ordered pizza that night. So
that bad.
It was very bad. They were probably, I don't know, 10, 11 years old, but it was not good. It was absolutely not good. And you should have seen the looks on their faces. They're going, it looks like a hot dog.
Yeah.
But it don't smell like a hot dog. and then when I took a bite of it, I was like, oh, this is really good. And I tried to really, suck it up, right? And smile and say, this is really good. They could tell, because I was like, oh my God, I gotta get this out of my mouth.
You wanted to spit it out.
Spit it out. And eventually that's what I did, because there was no possible way I could swallow it.
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
But I think that, that's why you see it now, because I don't eat pork products, but I get vegan bacon, and I make
How do you eat vegan bacon?
Oh, vegan bacon?
So it's made out of
It's made out of soy.
Oh,
But
okay.
you have vegan bacon, and I use it for carbonara. I make
Mm,
carbonara with it. It's very good. I get vegan chorizo, and I make chorizo and eggs with it. Very, very good.
hmm.
Very good. Now, hot
Mhm.
dogs still not so good, but
Mm.
you know, you take what you can get.
Yeah, maybe they'll figure that out at some point,
Yeah.
how to make it better.
And I have friends that are pescatarian too, and so
Yeah,
and I make a lot of paella.
yeah.
So I love making paella. It's just such a great, uh, group dish, like a
Mhm,
big party dish.
mhm.
And so, and I don't use chorizo. I don't use Portuguese chorizo or any Spanish chorizo. So I use vegetarian. I use vegetarian or vegan chorizo, and it
Cool.
works perfect. You just make it into little meatballs and you throw it in there, and
Oh,
it's nice and
I'm hungry.
spicy.
I'm hungry right now. It just made me super hungry just thinking of talking about food. But it's not just about healthy food because I know you've talked about it and it's on your website where it's also the products that you clean the kitchen with, like, or you use
Yes,
everything,
yes.
like you don't use
Completely
chemicals.
eco-conscious. I do
Yeah,
not know.
no chemicals whatsoever.
No, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And on my website, you can download like tip cards and so on. You can go on my YouTube channel and you can see how to live a more eco-conscious life because there's so many things that are in the environment today, but you can't control those,
Yeah.
right? So I could write to the EPA and I can, write to other
So we're going to
people,
give
but
you a website. I was going to wait till the end to say, okay, where can people find you? So, but since you're bringing it up, you can give the website now. What is the website?
witnessingnature.net.
Okay, there you go. So go and download the information.
Absolutely.
Eh,
And then, my YouTube videos too, which is also witnessing nature in food. You can really figure out how to do simple things like
mhm,
I think the statistic actually honestly is the more educated we are, the more we spend on different chemicals to clean things in our house, our leather
mhm.
cleaner, our stainless refrigerator cleaner, and so on. And all I use is just a little bit of vinegar on a rag, wipe off the spots, and I use olive oil to bring the shimmer and the shine back out. I
Cool.
mean, right, so it's just very simple, very inexpensive stuff you already have,
Yeah, yeah.
even to the point where I use aluminum foil because the oxidization of the aluminum foil in the wash is bleach. So it pulls out all kinds. I've pulled wine out of things, brighten
Really?
colors. Oh yeah,
Oh, that is so
absolutely,
cool.
absolutely.
Wow, I did not know about that. Well, there you go. Learn something new. Huh. Okay, so going back to business. The transition, what would you say that your experience in corporate America and now being an entrepreneur, do you find that anything from that experience was translatable, or do you find that most of the stuff, I'm sure some things were because everything we learn is usable, obviously, but yours was such a major shift from corporate America to being a chef. Were there,
Or being in business for myself because I was always
yeah,
a chef and I was always doing some catering and stuff on the side.
you were doing that?
But yeah, I was
Okay.
doing that. But then I decided that I didn't want to be in corporate America anymore, and I really wanted to move on to the next thing. And I had thought about it for 5, 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
but everybody would ask me. I was so busy, and everybody would ask me, "What do you want to do?" And I'm going, "I don't know."
So it's not something that you see, I didn't know this. So it's not something that you said, okay, I quit my job at corporate America and now I'm just going to do this. So you had started that on the side. You were
I
doing
had
it
to do it on the side
anyway.
because I love
Okay.
to cook, and my kids grew up and moved out like in 2004, 2005, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're all adults now, and
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't have anybody to cook for anymore. So it
Mm-hmm.
was really, have a party every weekend
Right.
or cook for people. So I had done that on the
But then you
side.
quit your job
Yes, I did.
and you went full time into this.
Yes, I did.
So how
And
was
I had
that?
no clue what name I wanted to make it or what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I needed the space
Mm-hmm.
from being busy all the time in order to go into the next me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how's that been?
It's been an 2 years of learning so much about myself,
Mm-hmm.
so much transition. Like you mentioned, there is a lot of things that are transferable into entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
However, your relationship with yourself is something that's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Because before you had bosses, even though I was a director, I had bosses, right? My customers were my bosses were my bosses. And really figuring out how to be my own boss
Mm-hmm.
and how to motivate myself
Mm-hmm.
is big. And then figuring out social media. I never did social media before. There's this era of marketing and getting people to know who you are, because food is a very personal thing. People
Mm-hmm.
want to see that it tastes good, looks good. They want to see that, you want to hear other people's opinions about how it tastes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to focus on the social media perspective of it, so they know they know they can begin to get references from other people, and they figure out that they can trust you to
Mm-hmm.
feed them.
That social proof. Getting that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. And now you're launching a
I
podcast.
am. Yep. Food to Love.
Food to love. So,
It's going to be focused on environmentally consciousness. So it's going to take you back to we'll talk about the dirt and how having nutritious dirt will give you better, more nutritious ingredients, all the way to
what do you mean by dirt? And how to grow
how
your
to
own
grow,
vegetables?
how to grow your own vegetables, but really honestly figuring out and asking questions of the farmers and
Mm.
how they grow the food. Because
Okay.
organic is one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but and you can see like the commercials on TV that say milk naturally from a cow, and I'm like,
Well, what else
oh,
is it going to
okay,
come?
where else is
Yeah.
it going to come from?
Yeah.
A goat, okay. But it doesn't tell you how the cow was raised,
Mm-hmm.
if it was fed grass, um, how long it was in the pasture. Was it 6 months in the pasture before and 6 months at the end, and then fed corn in the middle? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't tell you how that animal was treated or
Mm-hmm.
any of those things. And I think it's important to know those things.
So you can inform
I
people
can
on
inform
those
people,
topics. That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, I actually have a tip card that's called Marketing versus Organic Terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really kind of goes into what do each of those things mean when you see it. I was in a grocery store, I want to say about a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was buying like chicken breast, and it said right on the package, gluten free. And I'm like,
Well, yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but people are using so many marketing terms and so
Yes.
on things that would naturally not be that.
I know. I was in a
It's
store.
scary.
I was at a big store. This happened to me like months ago, and it was exactly the same thing where they were, where they give you samples,
Yeah.
and they were giving it was 100% organic orange juice, and the lady hands it to me. She goes, and it's gluten free, and I looked at her. I'm like, so really? I said it's gluten free. I'm like, so, it's oranges. It better be. But you're right. Like the labels are put on, and it's important to be aware of what it is that we're buying and not to buy into
And we're
some of those
paying
labels.
extra because they put that label on it
Mm-hmm.
to inform you that something that is already not
Mm-hmm.
that already does not have gluten in it,
Yeah.
has no gluten in it.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so, and also the organic terms. I mean, people can ride the line of what is actually organic,
Mm-hmm.
or they can be really committed and live really organic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you want to accomplish? Well, I want to know what my farmers want to accomplish. I want to know if they want to ride the line and just give you what the government says is okay,
Mm-hmm.
or they really want to take on and really live that organic life and really treat their animals, their plants, and so on organically.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you say um, to someone who is thinking about changing careers? Maybe they have a job, maybe they don't have a job, but they're just thinking of going on their own and wanting to do something similar to what you're doing. What would you recommend? What tips could you give them?
So I would probably say 3 very important points. 1, make sure you understand it's going to cost you twice as much as what you think it's going to cost you,
Mm-hmm.
and be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, get a coach.
Yes.
Get a coach. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be 52 in January, and if I wish, there's so many girl programs and coaching programs that were out there. I wish when I was a millennial or when I was younger
Mm-hmm.
that I would have had a coach.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been so different for me. I would be in such a different place than I am now,
Mm-hmm.
which is not bad. I mean, you're never too late to learn, right? And I would probably say that just do it. If it's something that you want to do and you really feel like it's your calling, don't let anybody stand in your way. There's going to be lots of haters out there.
Oh,
Just do it,
there will always
because
be, right? No
and
matter where.
some of
Yeah.
them may be your family and your best friends. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they may not. I don't want to say haters like they hate you or they hate what you're doing, but they really want to protect you from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you're safe and you're secure, and maybe so that they don't have to live with you. But
And that's until you get to a certain point, and then that turns around, and now you are their best friend.
exactly, you're their best friends, and you have
Then,
new haters.
yeah, then you get new haters. Yeah, and it does happen. It totally does. Like when you get to a certain, like first they go, "Who do you think you are? You shouldn't be doing this. It's not good for you." Or
So I guess
like saying,
I guess the third point is twofold. It's really jump and go do it,
mm-hmm.
but realize it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
If you think it's going to be easy, it's not. Like I
it's
said, it's going to cost you twice as much money. You really need somebody, and don't just get the first coach that's out there. Really
mm-hmm.
interview coaches
Yeah.
and make sure that they are going to mesh with you. They're going to give you
Mm-hmm.
the time and attention that you really need, and
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna not tell you what you want to hear. They're going to give you the truth.
The kick in the butt.
A kick in the butt saying,
Yeah.
so you said you were going to do this and you didn't do that. So where are you at with that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
and you can't do it alone. You just can't do it
Yeah.
alone. You need a coach.
Yeah.
You need people in your court that are going to be making you a better person.
Do you have a like a mantra or a quote or something that it's your reminder every day to when the
Oh,
times get tough? Do you have
the
anything like
times
that?
get tough.
Mm.
Because there's times, you know, you
Oh
get up,
yeah.
you wake up and you're like, or you go to bed at night and you're like, wow, today was really kind of a pooey day. But I've actually started journaling in the past. Since April, I started journaling, which is the first time since I was a teenager I've
Mm.
journaled. And I really have to say that I make sure that I put lessons learned, great things that happened in there,
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm going to do the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I focus on the negative, and sometimes you get poopy days and you have poopy people heaters. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So
Did you
you
say
just have to
poopy eaters?
people yes, people eaters. Poopy people eaters, yes. Because they sometimes they're ruthless. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I could have said that in such a much nicer, less attacking way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what happens, and
Yeah.
you just have to stay. You have to go, oh, person, not going to hang out with you, right? So
Yes.
you just have to, ding ding. I've learned a lesson today,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to really focus on the positive in order to keep going. And then when you have a really bad, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. Go back and look at those positive things that have happened, and figure out where you've come from, and keep your eye on your vision. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Put the eyes on the goal.
keep your eyes on the goal, because it's very easy to become distracted and go, oh, that was hard for me yesterday, I'm going to go do laundry instead, right? Or I'm not going to call that person because they might be mean to me.
And we try to avoid the pain of that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So no, just go forward, because what's the worst they can do? They can tell you no, or they can't take away your birthday. So
No, they can't.
they can't.
That's right. And ultimately, it's your life, so you
It
have to
is.
decide for you what you want, right?
Exactly. But yeah, keep your eye on the vision. And I've also learned to keep an idea journal as well. So
Mm-hmm.
things that I've worked on, I used to try to keep my ideas all in the same place as my journal and my business plan and so on. But all it did was kind of confuse me a bit
Mm-hmm.
about what my priorities were. So I put my ideas in a separate journal now, and it really has helped me,
Great.
because I go back like every month and go, oh, look at the ideas and see what could be next. Am I ready for the next thing? Or
That's a great tip.
did
That's
I
good.
learn that from the past month, did I learn that that idea over here is not in alignment with what
Mhm.
my culture, what my vision is?
That's excellent advice.
Because it
Nice
can
tip.
be, that's part of the learning how to manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before you had a manager that told you what to do, and
Yeah.
you kind of like, okay, so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
do that.
Now you have to be your own boss. You kind of tell
Exactly.
yourself ways to do. You have to pretend you're your own employee, right?
And then sometimes there's some conversations in the mirror that you have with
Oh,
yourself, going, "What were you thinking?"
yes. Yeah. Okay. You know what? It's funny because the other day I said, Francesca, you need to sit down. We need to have a serious talk. I did that too. I'm like, if someone was witnessing this, would think I'm totally crazy.
They'd be figuring out how to dial the phone number to the little hotel that takes you to the rubber
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, but sometimes it's necessary.
And I
Jennifer.
also found too that if you talk it out of your mouth, is so different than thinking it in your head.
Very true.
I sometimes have to really speak it out of my mouth
Very true.
to get it to come to fruition or work its way out.
Mhm.
And I don't know why that is, because I feel like I'm talking to myself if I'm thinking it.
Mhm.
That's not how it works at least in my head, that's not how it works. I have to talk it
You are
out.
so right, because it's the same as we learn in different ways, right? So this just kind of gives that extra dimension when we do voice it out. So it's not just internalized, but you actually hear from the outside.
I guess it's kind of like write your vision down, right? So you have to
Yeah.
really write it down in
So
order
that you
to
can see it on paper.
exactly, and you're
Right.
making commitments to yourself. Yes.
Yeah. So you hear yourself and then you see it. Yeah. Oh, I hadn't even thought about it that way. That's so cool.
It's like there's times that I will call McKelly and I will say, I need to talk about this, and as soon as I get it out of my mouth, I'm like, I know the answer. You don't need to answer
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
He's like, because men, they wonder on it. Sometimes he really wants to fix things for me because he really doesn't want to see me in pain.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, yeah, I just need you to listen. I just
Be
need
my
you to listen right now.
soundboard.
Be my sounding board. I just need you to listen. I just need to somehow get it out of my and know that I'm not talking to myself because sometimes then I sound crazy.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank you.
being my guest in this series. And just to remind our listeners and audience where they can find you and download those tips and
Absolutely.
follow
So you
you.
can find me at witnessingnature.net. I also have a Instagram account, which is Witnessing Nature, and a YouTube channel, Witnessing Nature and Food. Twitter, Witnessing Nature without the E because it's too many letters. But yes, Chef Jennifer, Witnessing Nature and Food.
And you have lots of recipes.
I do. I issue
Yes.
recipes every week.
Very
yes.
yummy recipes.
I'm
Of
actually thinking about how to
everything.
do them in a different way so you can collect them in a spot. But
Oh, cool.
new stuff is coming.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for your
Thank you.
tips, for sharing your story, your transition, going from corporate to being an entrepreneur, your own boss, and starting out on the side while you had the corporate, and then going to totally
Exactly.
full-fledged
I
and
totally am thrilled. And I'm so happy to have been here.
yeah.
And I'm so happy you're in my life because you've been some of
Oh.
my sounding board over
Oh.
the past year or so, and it's been great. It's been fantastic. Thank
you so
you.
much. Bye from Dallas.